Welcome to Guy Shrink. I'm Bill Roman, host here. We're in Toledo, Ohio, the Glass City. I'm here with my compatriot and producer, Keegan Berner, sitting over there on the side. Our guest today is Ziad Burkett, who is the CEO, founder of Midwest Juicery here in Toledo, which is an absolutely fantastic producer of the best juices in the world. And so we're going to talk about some stuff, quite a bit of stuff. And welcome, Ziad, to Guy Shrink. And as always, I always start with the first question with all my guests is, what keeps you awake at night?
Well, now it's going to be how much better your voice is on the sound than mine is. I'm listening. I'm like, man, like you have a face for TV, but also a voice for audio, a face for radio too. So don't forget that. So what keeps me up at night? I analyze a lot, and I'm probably going to analyze, my voice and your voice now too as a sub factor, but that'll wait till actually tonight. So for now, I overthink. Like I have an analysis brain, as I've been told before, which is a blessing, but also a curse. I just think a lot.
Okay, so anything in particular that keeps you awake at night? Anything particular that you go through your head over and over again, or just whatever?
Yeah, I would say one thing that really bothers me, it's weird. I'm like a really big people person while being a massive introvert. Nobody believes me that I'm an introvert, but I'm an introvert. I like talking to people like one-on-one, but take me to a party and I'm like, take me home, please. So although I'm a big people person, I'm very conscious of like social interactions anywhere, whether it's just how people treat other people. And I definitely overthink when it comes to like treatment of people. And that can be like, grand social things and, like worldly problems, but also just like how people interact in the business setting. And it really blows my mind, like the etiquette that some people have and some people don't. And it's something that I think about because, we're all very sensitive human beings, whether people want to admit it or not. And I think that I do think a lot about like, oh, that interaction was kind of messed up. Like that person said that. And of course I'm super overly critical. So, the analysis doesn't have a fine line like that. So.
Okay. So manners is something you think about. Maybe we ought to have manners and goodwill towards people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But most people don't.
Okay. Hey, you're the CEO, the founder of this fabulous juice company. Tell us about that, because you're another entrepreneurial guy, but you're also another man that I've gotten to know that isn't afraid of a new idea. And this is a whole new idea here in juice manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about how you got started on the Midwest Juicery.
Yeah, I got started, I think like 6 or so years ago now. The inception of it was about 6 or so years ago. And it really was because I started following a lifestyle diet. I wasn't one of those people that has like, I had this issue and I made a problem to fix it. I just tried a lifestyle diet. It was essentially like a paleo diet. So low sugar, low inflammatory foods, high nutrient density type foods. And I loved it. I did it for 30 days and never looked back. And I started to look for more products that I like that fit into that food groups. And at the beginning it was like, oh, naked, we're good to go. No added sugar, we're good. And it has, but it has like 60 grams of sugar. Or 50, it's actually like high 50s or mid 50s, but it's still a lot. At the time, I didn't know though. I was just like, no added sugar. And then I just kept learning a little bit more slowly. And over time, I came to learn that it does matter actually. If there's no fiber in a drink, it's very bioavailable. And that's a good thing in terms of the vitamin and nutrients, but it's also a bad thing if the sugar's high. And the simple explanation I give for people is like, you drink coffee, you don't chew coffee beans. And obviously because it tastes really good, but partially because it's very bioavailable. You drink a cup of coffee and you're ready to go. And so for juices, it's kind of the same concept. You need to make sure that it is low in sugar because there's plenty of studies out there that can show that the high sugar stuff is just simply not good for you. Unless you're a high endurance athlete, your body's just not ready to absorb it. It generally will spike your insulin and cause inflammation. Not that dissimilar to soda drinks. Well, the only difference is that there is a little bit of vitamins and nutrients with fruit juices. But again, unless you're a high endurance athlete, your body's not ready for it, or it's not optimal for your body. And that actually is applicable even if it's not per se a fruit juice, but it's, a fresh juice or even a cold pressed organic juice that is high in natural sugar because they're very fruit forward. Well, they'll spike your insulin just as much as anything out there. And it's really a shame, honestly, because people spend their hard-earned money on these single-serving drinks, and there's the big boys out there that make this drink for around $4, and honestly, at that price, I don't really care what they make because it's an economy option, and that's fine. What really breaks my heart is when people spend their hard-earned money on a drink that's in the price range of mine, $7 to $8, some are even as much as $9, $10, $12, and they're just drinking sugar. They think they're trying to make a healthy decision to improve problems, and those problems are really national problems we have, in that less than 10% of people in the Midwest, and I think it's less than 13% of people in the country, get their daily vegetable intake, and their vegetable intake is 3 servings.
Wow.
Now, I think it should be more like 7 to 8, but even 3, so little get it. So people are grabbing these drinks, and the other side of that is that 1 in 3 Americans have type 2 diabetes or are pre-diabetic. So people are grabbing these drinks and trying to improve their health, and those 2 foundational health problems they have are actually being made worse, and they're spending a lot of money to make it worse.
Yeah, that's so true. Right now I'm drinking beet juice, which I really like, and it only has 12 grams of sugar in the bottle. And beets by themselves are pretty sugar loaded vegetable.
Exactly, and that's why we didn't put any sweet fruit in that one. That's one of our juices. We have a line of 7 juices, and 2 of them currently have no sweet fruit. It's just vegetables, lemon, and ginger, and we'll have a third one in a couple months. But this is one of our drinks that has no sweet fruit, and then the ones that do have very little. Whether it's a lot of carrots and a little bit of apple, or a lot of greens and a little bit of apple, you're just going to taste way more vegetables with our juices and not taste the sweetness, because we also want to do our part to kind of condition your palate for products that are not sweet, so that hopefully you don't pick the sweet barbecue sauces and the sweet salad dressings and all those other products that
you mentioned insulin a minute ago. Now I'm not a physician, of course, but a year ago my own doctor got me onto the be more cognizant of insulin resistance in your diet, and be more cognizant of where sugar creeps in, not just putting teaspoons of sugar in tea, but in juices, for instance. And it was amazing when you become more cognitive of these kinds of things, looking at the labels and going, ooh, that's a lot.
Right.
And when you start modifying your diet and paying attention to insulin resistance, and you're absolutely right, that's the gateway to diabetes too, is that you know what, you can lose an extraordinary amount of weight by doing that. And I noticed that the mission statement of your company is something like, our mission is to help you enjoy being healthier.
Yep.
What a concept.
Yeah, it's very simple. And that's honestly the sad part, is because a lot of people think, oh, if it's healthy, it doesn't taste good. And that's just not the case. I'm not going to lie, our juices are hardcore, and they're not going to be for everyone, and they're not going to be for the people that are conditioned for straight sweet stuff. But people that are super healthy, obsessed with it. People that are even moderately healthy, like some of them, and that's great. And then we want to kind of slowly help people to find more products that are good for them. And we talk about other brands that we love too, whether it's on our blog or on our social media, or just me telling people like, hey, oh, gosh, I love this food, but I can't find a good version of it. Usually I have a pretty good idea of something like that. And joy is the foundational aspect of it, because if you don't enjoy it, it's not sustainable. You're gonna yo-yo diet, you're gonna do Whole30 for 30 days and then quit. And we really want to help you make sustainable change. That's why, although we have juice cleanses on our website, we generally don't push them that hard, because unless, like, we put in our promotional materials that come along with it to say, hey, now this is what we suggest you do afterwards. Because if you're not going to sustain, good choices, and they don't have to be perfect. People are too hard on themselves. That's like my one, I love Whole30's philosophy in terms of food groups, but that's the one thing I don't love about it, is that it's too strict. And it's okay if you have a cheat meal. It's okay if you have a lot of cheat meals, but a lot of healthy meals is better than no healthy meals. And so we're always, encouraging people to find products that give them joy while still being healthy, so that they can sustain it over time. I mean, being 70% healthy for the rest of your life is way better than 100% once every 6 months, or a month every 6 months. That change in your diet is also not great for you, like in terms of your hormone balance.
No, right. So you got into this by your own journey of, I need to do something more healthy while in eating. Is that what I'm hearing?
It was more like I was already healthy, and I was just looking for more products that fit into that. Okay. So it's not that I was like, oh, I hate this juice, it's sweet. It's really like, I'm not drinking any juice because I can't find anything that meets my requirements. And what's honestly one of my favorite parts of this job is that all the time people come up to us when we're doing demos or just, social media, and they comment and they say, I love your juice. I actually never drank juice before because everything is too sweet. And now we drink your juice because it tastes good and it's not sweet. That's about as good as it gets.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense, because I'm in that group of, I don't drink juice because there's just way too much sugar in it. Particularly after the book that I read is called Why We Get Sick, and it's about insulin resistance. And then coupled that with a piece of research called the PE diet, which isn't paleo, but it's similar, and the profound effects that just modifying your diet, can do. And just a simple intake of sugar, that sugar really is a main culprit here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly. And I think what you said is really key, is that having that like foundational base of your diet is essential. Because although I started a paleo diet forever ago, I don't follow it strictly now. I like oats, and I found out that oats are good for your gut. So, I eat oats because it's fermented with fiber, and I'm Lebanese, so I'm not going to not eat hummus. Like, these are not options.
Absolutely. You sort of
so
can't do that.
you find what like is your core, and you try to make it, the substantial portion of your diet. And then if you have adjacent products, whether they're still healthy versions that don't fit into your ideal food type, that's totally fine. I mean, and actually, like, I really like that. Who is it? I think Melissa from Whole30 actually says that, part of her food, gosh, what's it called? It's like the name of the thing after you finish Whole30 and you have food freedom. That's what it is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she talks she's like, I eat white rice sometimes. And I'm like, good. Like, don't feel like, oh, I cheated if I had. No, it's like, it's fine. Like, white rice is not a big deal. Like, now if you eat 7 cups a day and alongside other unhealthy with other products that are not unhealthy or healthy, then that can become a problem. But I mean, you can find simple natural foods that even if they don't technically fit your food group, they're totally fine. And in addition, have your unhealthy food.
What it sounds like what you're trying to do, though, is you're trying to reconfigure one's relationship to food, as opposed to, I'll do the 30-day diet here, and then diets never last if you don't do something to sustain them. And the idea is to just change the way you approach the whole thing altogether.
Correct.
In small steps. This would be a small step here.
Yep.
To do a juice that's got 12 grams of sugar as opposed to 65 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ziad, what's the process? I have a crate of vegetables. What's the process? The actual process you use to make this juice?
So to make this juice, it's kind of simple, but very labor intensive. So there's essentially 4 steps to the process. The first one is washing the produce. I mean, that's important because it's, you want to get the dirt off for both any potential, like bacteria or anything like that that's just in soil. But also just to remove the bad flavor. I mean, dirty carrots don't taste very good. And dirty lettuce doesn't taste very good. So washing it is step 1. Number 2 is grinding it. So it has the juice, you have the whole produce and you have to take it and you have to break it down somehow. So our juice goes through just like a food processor. It's pretty simple and straightforward.
Okay.
It's a regular food processor you have at home that cuts it up, essentially makes it into like a pulp, more of like a julienne type thing. And then from that goes into the mesh bag. I'm sorry, you have beet juice here, and I'm going to laugh this whole episode. I'm going to laugh for an hour, so I have to tell you now.
My mustache.
I mean, it looks great, but I'm going to laugh for an hour. So it's not ideal for the podcast. So then the pulp or the ground up produce, it's very quick. There's no heat involved or anything like that. It's just like a quick cutting. And then that goes into a mesh bag, and the mesh bag literally just gets squeezed. I mean, this is what a cold press juicer does. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And then from there, it gets bottled.
Okay. So how many pounds of pressure goes into squeezing the daylights out of that?
I think it's about 5,000 to 7,000 pounds PSI just to squeeze it.
Okay. Wow.
I guess there is a 5th step, and that 5th step would be once it's bottled, it goes through a machine called high pressure processing, and it's a relatively newer technology. It's a very innovative way to extend the shelf life of a product without having to go some of the more complicated or less healthy options, including pasteurization or freezing. So these finished product, whether it's a juice, it's now being done with meat and guac and hummus and a boatload of products where they take it, they submerge the finished product, so this juice, just like this, underwater for about 3 minutes with about 87,000 PSI.
Wow.
It's about 6 times the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
The bottom of the Mariana Trench is about 16,000 PSI, so this is about 6 times as strong. And that pressure seals the bottle shut, and it literally kills bacteria that could be harmful for you. And that allows you refrigerated to have a pretty long shelf life. And what's really cool is I am 100% confident that our product does not have any of the harmful bacteria like E. coli, salmonella, and listeria. And the reason is because part of the setup process that you have to do is that you take the juice. You don't do this is launch of your product. You take it, you just do the cold press in your bottle, and then you send it to a food lab. You have to overnight it to a food lab, and they inject E. coli, salmonella, and listeria into your juice. Mm-hmm. So it's 100% sure that it's in there. Mm-hmm. And then they do the HPP, and they test it over time, and they make sure that it doesn't grow back, and it doesn't. So it's a really cool process. There was actually that big romaine scare a couple years ago where there was romaine. Yeah. Thankfully, our romaine is locally sourced, so it wasn't from California. But even if it was and we had that bad romaine, this process would have killed it, definitively.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial spirit that said, I want to start a juice factory.
Oh, gosh. It's genetic and it's cultural, too. I mean, like the percentage of, Middle Easterns that have their own business in America is like super high. I think it's like the second highest no, actually, it's the number one. Like Middle Eastern people have the highest rate of entrepreneurship in America. So I was, predisposed to it. And then everyone in my family has their own business. I mean, there was 7 of us and 5 of us did. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my sister's an awesome person at a local bank. So, but the other 5 of us all have their own business. So honestly, it was just a matter of time. We all like being in control, and we like doing our own thing, and we like doing something that we're passionate about. So healthy products is something.
Do you think that's it, though? I like to be in control. Do you think that's the motivating factor here?
No, it's more of do something that gives me purpose, I guess. And
okay.
This is a product that gives me purpose. I could certainly do this even if I didn't own the own business. Sometimes that sounds great, so I'm not as stressed. But otherwise, I think I could do it regardless. It's really about something that gives me purpose. But I do like having some control. Like it's nice having final say on some things that I think I'm right on, of course. I mean, we all think we're right on everything.
The best way to win an argument is always begin by being right.
Yes.
That's a good way of putting it. Well, as an entrepreneur then, and you've been doing this now for how long? How long's the Midwest been in business?
About 5.5 years.
5.5 years, okay. So do you have any mentors that have helped you figure stuff out?
I do. I have a lot, but there's certainly 2 that are my go-tos in terms of business problems. One is a local, someone from Toledo that is actually a family friend. He's known me since I was a little kid. He makes jokes all the time about me running around the mosque as like a 4-year-old, like causing hell, ironically in a mosque. And then the other one is someone I met from an organization that I volunteer for. He's on the board of that organization, and he actually does consulting for healthy brands. So we are both kind of volunteers for this organization, and then I found out what he does, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. So he's really been a great resource for me.
Okay, so how have you used your mentors in the past then?
Usually I call them when I have a problem, pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And or an opportunity, we'll say. And I tell them what it is. I kind of explain to them what the good and the bad is of the situation and what I think, might be the ideal solution. And I listen to their feedback, and they have really good advice. And the big thing that I've learned over time is that facts don't matter. And this kind of circles back a little bit to our conversation that we started with about treating people well and manners and etiquettes. And unfortunately, people just, you can tell people like, hey, this is what happened, X, Y, Z, and this is why. This is the part that people hate, but this is why you're wrong, or this is what you guys did wrong. And people just don't want to hear it. They never do. People just don't care. They're just going to brush it all off, and they're going to say, this is what I want, take it or leave it. And that's what
my work as a therapist, that's certainly true, particularly with couples, is that they both have different versions, and much of the conflict is trying to convince the other person that my version is right.
Right.
And if you just give that up, there's no such thing as the facts in all of this.
I have now.
You're a lot better off in just giving up your need to convince the other person of that.
Yeah, I stopped trying to convince people. Just yesterday, I had like an argument with a cousin, and he said something, and I was just like, I'm literally not going to waste 1 second responding to you, because you see it the way you see it, and I'm going to tell you what I see, and you're going to tell me why I'm wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, and that's exhausting. I'd rather do anything else.
Well, I'm intrigued by the mentoring thing, and you said that they're good to help me solve problems and find the best solutions. That was your phrase, I think, was best solutions,
Yeah.
The best way forward. And I don't know if you are familiar with Robert Greene's book Mastery at all, but what a profound piece of literature. And he talks about part of the problem in our situation in our world today is that work is a drudgery. And you said, I want to find some joy in what I do, meaningful and purposeful, and that work should be joyful. That's the first thing that Green says is work around to find something that you really enjoy doing. And then the second thing is be willing to put some time in to be apprenticing. That is just trying to figure stuff out. And that could be 15, 20 years, whatever. And the third thing he said was make sure you get some mentors, living or dead, get some mentors. And I heard you say that that's been an important process in your own development as an entrepreneur and as a man about finding some guides out there to help steer you in some situations that you may not know the way.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think you said something really interesting right there, which was that even if it takes 15 years, generally speaking, most people that look at other people and they go, oh man, they're so successful. How did they get there? The one thing is they're usually a lot older than you. So taking that slow approach and that mentorship of, hey, I'm gonna pick something or I'm just going to strive towards something. And even if if you start, especially when you start young, like if you start when you're 25 on something like I did, and it takes you 15 years to get super successful, well, that means you're really successful at 40. Like, that's pretty damn good. So I think that time is really important. And I always, tell anyone that I talk to, especially some, younger friends or younger cousins, that always play the long game. Always play the long game. Don't sacrifice part of your values for a short-term win, because first of all, you'll hate that you did it. But second of all, it kind of just deteriorates at you overall, and that doesn't help you find joy in it. So I really think, I think finding that joy, playing the long game, and listening to other people, because you're stupid. Like, we're all stupid.
Yeah. A piece of that 15 years apprenticeship, if we could call it that. That was Greene's phrase. Apprenticeship was there are no hacks here, and when you look at there's no overnight success, and what you've done here is taken 5.5 years to get to. Yeah. And
I'm still not to where I want to be. And it's interesting too that 15 years, because I have friends that are my age or, a little bit younger, a little bit older, that are super successful. And I look at that and I'm like, man, how did you get there so fast? And I realized, like, oh, you've been somewhat grinding in some fashion since you were 12. Like, I get it. Like, full-time in, school and sports, and, worked with their dad on the weekends, or when they were 15, they had, they worked as a caddy and all these things. And it's like, I get it. Like, I was pretty lazy for most of my life. So I had a later start than everybody, and that's okay. Honestly, I what's the point of arguing about it? You can't change it. So I had a later start, but finding those right people that, if you're fortunate enough to find some really good mentors, it'll change the way you think pretty quickly. And that facts don't matter thing for someone like me who's straight analysis, like I have no right brain. Right. I have no right brain whatsoever. I have strictly a left brain. So for someone like me to give up the fact that facts don't matter is really a testament to their intelligence.
How did you find those mentors? Did you put a little ad in the paper or what?
No, the one I found, actually, I've known him all my life.
He said that. He knew you.
That one I know all my life. And the other one, I was just fortunate enough to be in the same organization as them. And he told me what he did, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect.
Okay, so you were hunting, or you were open to the idea that there's somebody out there that could help me out. I'm not impervious to new information then.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I know I'm pretty smart, but I'm also stupid, because we're all stupid.
Yeah.
And being open to learning, and that part of that overanalysis is that, I mean, you wouldn't waste your time analyzing what you did if you're not open to you being wrong. So people, at least for me, I'm super overly analytical and superly overcritical. But that's also because I'm spending a lot of that time analyzing myself. Like, if I thought I was right, then I would have less to analyze.
Well, someone said, it might have been Greene in his book, Mastery, talked about Edison. Edison didn't have any failures. He just found 10,000 ways on how not to make a light bulb. Yeah. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, whenever something bad happens in my life or work or anything, I would just call it resilience training.
Oh, resilience training?
Yeah, resilience training.
Say more about that.
Well, it's just that it kind of circling back to the playing the long game, and just knowing that, life is tragedy. That's generally the opinion of every major religion, whether you're religious or not, but that's like the core essence of, the Abrahamic religions and Hinduism and Buddhism, that, life is a struggle, life is a tragedy, whatever you want to call it. And just knowing that things are going to happen, and just to learn to roll with the punches and get thicker skin. And I mean, now things happen that a couple years ago would have just like ruined my day or my week. And now it bothers me for about like 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm like, I got too many other things to do. So you just learn to roll with it. You learn to accept that these things are going to happen. It's really embracing the, whatever you want to call it, the chaos, the hell, whatever, to know that like, look, these things are going to happen. Just roll with them. But if you accept that they're going to happen and are prepared for them, it's kind of like, it's like, boxing. They always say, the punch that knocks you out is the one you don't see coming. Well, if you're expecting the punches of, life, no matter how cheesy that is, they don't hurt as much.
Well, the first noble truth of Buddhism is life is suffering.
Life is suffering, yeah.
But once you figure that out, it's not so bad anymore.
Exactly. The same thing in Islam. I'm a Muslim, and the common the word that scares the hell out of every American is jihad. But like what jihad is jihad's like an internal struggle.
Yes.
That's like the foundation of it, is that like you struggle internally.
Yes.
And learning to cope with that, learning to be okay with that, and being strong enough to handle that is probably the hardest thing that any of us will ever do.
Yes. As Pogo once said, we have met the enemy, and they are us.
Yeah.
And so we have to do some wrestling with ourselves.
Oh, yeah. We're our biggest enemies for sure. We're our biggest critics and everything.
Wow. So the juice.
Yeah, back to the list.
The Midwest Juicery. Yeah, we're talking to Ziad Burkett, who's the CEO, founder of Midwest Juicery here in Toledo. So, Ziad, do you have any, to kind of wrap things up, do you have any, one-liners, advice to guys that are wrestling around with stuff in their heads?
I would say be honest with yourself and others and play the long game. If you're honest about the way you treat yourself and the way you are with others, and you realize that it's going to take a while, it seems like anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, thanks a million for coming down here, and thanks for bringing some treats too.
My pleasure.
Yeah, he brought some juices here. So, well, thanks for listening to Guy Shrink, and tune in for some of our other episodes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bet.